right, here we go. Back out here for a little Box Testimonial. It was the Box Diaries the first time I was out here, but I think the Box Testimonials has a little better sound to it. Somebody told me recently that you don't want to live near a golf course because I guess the golf course landscaping and everything, landscaping crew, they use lots of pesticides, of course, to keep the critters off the course. And whoever was telling me this was suggesting that somehow it ends up getting into the waterways and then gets into the drinking water. If you live near a golf course, suddenly you're going to be drinking some sort of chemicals when you're drinking out of the faucet. Which this individual wasn't attempting to necessarily make me afraid, but he was trying to project some sort of fears that he may have had, which would deter him and others, myself included, from living near a golf course. And maybe that I would even perhaps consider moving on the basis that I would be drinking. There's a lot of gnats out here today. Seems to be a lot of gnats all the time. I'm kind of anti-bug spray though. Or I'm not necessarily anti-bug spray, but I'm not a consistent user of bug spray. I feel like with the bug spray, the bug deterrent, if you get it on, spray it on you, all of a sudden you have like more awareness. Or if you become a user of bug spray, it's almost like you have more awareness of the bugs. And it's like this perpetual cycle of trying to, apply the spray to deter the bugs. And, then you're like kind of aware if the bugs have come back or if they have departed your vicinity. So I don't use bug spray because I don't want to get into the game of paying attention to what's happening around this area. But in any case, it's interesting because I wonder what's more healthy. Is it more or less healthy to live near a golf course or to be a consistent user of insect repellent? Because after all, they are kind of the same thing, right? Like the pesticides that they are using on the golf course and whatever chemicals are within the bug spray, unless you're using some sort of organic bug spray, which I would imagine most people are not. You got to really go out of your way to do that. But in any case, I think some groups should be coming by here shortly. This is the men's tees back there behind. It's interesting because when you live in a golf course, you see a lot of different scenarios. At this particular golf course, I see, which is kind of unusual, I haven't seen this really anywhere else, where you have a foursome, and sometimes the different guys in the foursome will use different carts, like people who actually know each other. I don't mean like a single met up with some other guys and he's by himself. Like at this particular course, I don't know when this started, but I think it's a bad trend. It's a bad habit. Like not half, but a portion of the experience of golf, if you're riding, is the ride with whoever it is you are riding with. And I think this may have started during COVID, where people started using different golf carts. And when COVID went away, at least at this place, they continued to allow or maybe even encourage people to ride the golf carts solo, which is just strange. It's just strange. I think at times it might actually be more efficient because you got, if like one guy's over here, one guy's over there, you can kind of divide and conquer. When they're together, ideally you're playing cart golf, where two guys in the same cart are have balls that have ended up in the same place. So anyway, that's the situation out here today. What I had actually wanted to talk about was time. My niece, who I think is like 8, asked me what time it was uh, today when we were all out somewhere, and she asked, "What time is it?" It's a Saturday, and it occurred to me, I'm like, well, why would an 8-year-old need to know what time it is on the weekend? Like, what is that? Where where does she have to be? Or even if there is nowhere for her to be, what is her relationship with time, where it would make any difference or mean anything as to whether it was 2 o'clock or 12 o'clock. So I don't know. I think for clock time is an interesting thing. We all have a different relationship with clock time. Um, but her mom told me, she said, she doesn't like to be late. Both she and her sister don't like to be late to school. And then that made me think, well, that's kind of where it all begins, is children have a relationship with time that begins when they start going to school. And they all of a sudden have to be paying attention to what time it is and what time they need to be where they need to be. And you have someone, you know, kids in their youth, they don't have any relationship with time. They're aware or observing their parents' relationship with time. They understand when things are maybe need to be hurried or when there is no rush. But it's interesting. I don't know. It's kind of like, well, why does a 7 or 8-year-old need to be focused on where they need to be at a certain time? And with respect to school, it reminded me that there are penalties, of course, for tardiness. If you're late, so very early on at a young age, kids are being penalized, or there's some type of adverse consequence for not being on time. And what does that do, though, really? In my mind, that kind of like creates this perpetual urgency, this perpetual awareness of, well, what time is it, and when do we need to be there, and how much time do we need to prepare to be there? It's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of time in your head at a young age. When is that really essential? Is that really necessary? Is that even healthy? Right? And I know, people would argue, well, you want to make sure kids are responsible at a young age and they understand, what it means to be punctual and all these things. But I feel like the longer that kids can be in a state of play without having to get in their head in some type of relationship to something else, particularly with time, because there's a feeling that comes with that awareness, and that feeling is often anxiety. It's often this tension. You could have a completely relaxed, free kid or person, and then all of a sudden they become in this anxious cycle related to or connected to what time it is, which of course puts them in a place that is not in the present but in the future, and in a relationship as to where they are now compared to the future, and how much time do they have to prepare to get to where they need to be on time. And then once they've arrived there, then they successfully get to exhale. So I don't know the answer for that necessarily, but it is an interesting one to me. And I feel like a lot of times, for some of us, for those of us who are of us who are looking inward, we're often paying attention to, what is it that causes us stress and anxiety truly? What is our relationship to the world? And a lot of that is peeling back layers of things that were from our youth, right? Even if we had a perfectly healthy loving childhood, things like that, things like time that create tension, anxiety, stress within us. Now, I'm not suggesting we should just be completely oblivious to the world, but I think what would be ideal is if our relationship with time was also, we had an awareness of what it was doing to us at a young age. When we were teaching people when they needed to be punctual, we were also telling them, okay, along the way, you got to breathe. You've got to be aware. I know you need to get here, but until we're there, we're still here. And sometimes we need to move slow to move fast, and to kind of pay attention to where we are at along the way, along the check marks of getting there, as opposed to being in this kind of cycle of fear as to what will happen if we do not arrive there punctually. It looks like somebody went a little right with that one. It doesn't seem like, I mean, do they still penalize kids for being tardy? Because who are the tardy kids? It's usually the kids who have parents who can't get them organized and out the door and where they need to be on time, or at the appropriate time. But is the child the one who's actually getting penalized for that? It's not necessarily the parents' fault either, but it's certainly some type of like dual accountability. So anyway, just some thoughts out here. A little video on a Saturday. The other day was about weather. Today's a little bit about just some thoughts about time. So I hope you all are doing well this Saturday.